Hi everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar on gamification, a driver for behavior change in sustainable cities. This webinar is organized by the Green Digital Charter, which is a Eurocities-led initiative committing 52 European cities to use ICTs to achieve 3 goals: reduce their carbon footprint, green their ICT equipment, and engage with their citizens. This webinar on gamification is part of our series on citizens in smart cities. And you can follow us on both our website and Twitter at GDC Charter. Before we start, a couple of information for those who just joined us. All attendees are muted. Please keep it that way so that we avoid noise during the webinars and let speakers speak quietly. This webinar is also being recorded, and please write down your question in the chat all along the webinar so that I will be able to ask them directly to our speakers during the Q&A session at the end. What is gamification? So really quickly, gamification is the application of game design elements and game principles in non-game contexts, such as our cities. It involves using elements such as badges, rewards, challenges, and leaderboards, as well as other features like ability to level up or use an avatar for your character. Objectives in using gamification in the context of a city range from raising awareness to motivating users to change their behaviors, or engaging them to play a more active role in their environment. This present webinar will present 3 youth-funded projects using game features to support a shift in urban behaviors toward more sustainable and livable cities. So you will see now all 3 projects. The first one is ChArGED. It's a project on energy efficiency in public buildings, and it will be presented by Stavros Lounis, a researcher based in Athens. The two other projects are respectively Empower and on smart mobility, and ChArGED, a research project on raising citizens' awareness and engagement in air quality. So thank you all for joining us, and I will now leave the floor to Stavros to present the ChArGED project. Stavros, the floor is yours.
Dear Rebecca, thank you very much. I will now open my presentation. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Great. So hello everybody. I am Stavros Lounis. I'm from Eltron E-Business Research Center in the Athens University of Economics and Business. In Eltron, we conduct research and in a number of projects involving around gamification and more specifically user engagement. Today we will talk about ChArGED, and as it is a webinar on gamification, we will drill inside the process to derive into the game-like experience we aim to create. So first of all, a little bit on gamification itself. Picture yourselves being back as young kids and you were taken for a walk, and at some point in time, walking became a little bit boring. So what did you do? You improvised a game. If you remember the game and you can recall it, it was step within the building blocks of the pavement and you win, and step where the 2 blocks meet and then you lose. So at that point in time, and in essence, this is gamification. So gamification is changing something that is not traditionally a game into a game-like experience for the participating individual. So you have something that people don't normally do and they don't perceive it as a game, and then you infuse it, you enhance it with different game elements in order to make it into a gameful experience. More formally, it's the use of game elements and techniques in non-game contexts. So the non-game contexts in our charts, in our project charts, will be talked a little bit later on. And why do we do that? In order to motivate engagement with the participants and perhaps even drive behavior towards predefined goals of the gamification process. So what are the building blocks that we have? First of all, we have an onboarding process, at which point we have to show to the people what this new game is, how it is played, what are the rules, what are the winning conditions and the losing conditions, and how can they have fun while participating in such a process. In order to do so, you have to have a narrative and a whole storyline. So what this non-game context, or what this activity that was previously not a game, is evolving and how it goes about. The building blocks I talked before comprise of many things, some of which include the building block of points, where we tell the participant that he or she did well at such a challenge or a task, so he gains and she gains those points. Once he or she does good in a long standing process, we can award them with badges, which are visual representations of important achievements. And further on, we have the ability to enable a comparison with the use of a leaderboard, which is basically a list, an ordered list of the accumulated points or the received badges or whatever the gamification structure enables us to do. Additional to that, we have different levels, so we group together the tasks we want the participants to do in different difficulties. So beginning, you have easy stuff, like keep walking, and as you move across and you become more skilled, then the level becomes more difficult, because we want to challenge you throughout play. So having all the affirmation will lead to the rewards. So every participant, when he or she interacts with the system and succeeds in some sort of way, then he or she can be rewarded by the system, by the organization that supports the gamified structure, etc. And lately, we have the overall binding main persona and the theme of the gamified process. This is a bit later on in the gamification research, where the whole theme and the whole process is supported by an in-game entity that guides the participants. And we will see all these, how they fall inside the ChArGED project. First of all, and very briefly, ChArGED addresses the energy consumption in public buildings and proposes a framework that aims to facilitate achieving energy efficiency and reduction of energy wasted in public buildings. So, to sum up, our goals rely on the underlying and our participants, and the intricacies of our non-game contexts is energy consumption, but in public buildings. You can use the link to learn more about ChArGED, and you can see on the bottom left all the organizations that participate in our project. So, to put a focus a bit more on the people that will experience the new gamified system, which focuses to help them reduce energy wastage in work and become more energy efficient, we have three different pilots. The first is in the middle low, DAEM. The second is the Muséum National d'Histoire de l'Art in Luxembourg. And the third is ICAEN, which is the Institute of Energy in Catalonia. So, first of all, let's zoom in on the pilots and start to deriving to some issues and problems that we have to take under consideration when we try to gamify something. First of all, let's see the three different sites deep in and derive some insights. First of all, we have the potential users, which are 55 employees, and they are positioned in 7 main areas. So, since they work together throughout the time that we want to motivate them to become more energy efficient, this means that as they work together, they use energy-consuming devices that are shared. And so the ones in one team have different devices than the others. Some of them have devices that consume even more energy than others. That's the first thing to take into consideration. And the second is that the nature of the individual's type of work has an effect. So the people that, for example, are in IT print less than the people that are in accounting or administrative. Further on, in this specific case, we do not have prior registration of energy consumption. This would mean that in the case of Diane, we will have to have a period where we start monitoring both energy consumption and employee behavior using that energy in order to be able to see how our gamified approach will have an effect. Moving to ICAIN in Barcelona, we can first and foremost understand that different demographics and the different location, both in culture and the different way that all participants have evolved over time can lead to different perceptions about energy efficiency, etc., etc. As you can see, this building is a bit better on its own than the previous one. That would mean that in the previous one, energy efficient actions might have an effect on the comfort level of the participants. What I mean by that, if we encourage individuals to set the thermostat, for example, on heating or cooling to a specific energy efficient optimal degree, let's put it this way, the difference in the two buildings will have the previous one spending even more electricity in order to meet the comfort levels of the second building. Furthermore, in the first one, we did not have any visitors, where here we have some visitors. Visitors do not traditionally have the ability to act upon energy-consuming devices, but the effect they have, so the lighting used for them, the cooling and heating used for them, use of different devices by them, although it has an effect on the overall energy consumption, they do not have the authority to act upon energy-consuming devices. Last, we have our museum, where here the difference is tremendous. Because in the previous, we have the people that were able to act upon energy-consuming devices be the majority of the people that utilize that energy consumption. However, here we have only 100 employees and 65,000 visitors per year who do not act upon conditions. So that's one intricacy and one question. How can we introduce people that do not have an effect on energy consumption, who cannot control, support the ones that can? So overall, this is a complex system. And for the purpose of this presentation, we will focus on the left corner, which says the gameplay on a mobile app. So we will contact and we will introduce the participants in our pilots in the gamified experience through a mobile touch point. So, to sum up, our focus is energy efficiency and, more important, energy wastage prevention. In order to do so, we need to be able to disaggregate energy consumption. So we need to be able to see how much energy each consuming device has and who uses it and how. So we can see if there is any wastage and then motivate the user to become more energy efficient. Our users are employees and they kind of differ than citizens or other types or consumers, because they have a different relationship with the organization that introduces the gamified system. And last but not least, we talk about public buildings. So it's not privately owned, where cost would be a very interesting and primary incentive to reduce which would have a direct effect on the employees. However, in our case, it's a bit different. So how can we go one step closer to the decisions that will create the gamified, the whole playful experience? First of all, we did a state-of-art analysis, and we saw where the industry as well as the academia stands currently. Then we had to see how we differ as a project, as pilots, as target goals, as target users, and we did that following an on-site visit, and then we conducted in-depth interviews to drill down to the different pilots, and then a global survey. So, based on the on-site visits and their results on gamification specifically, first of all, the different buildings have a different effect on the game. So people in building A, in buildings A, in pilot B and pilot C will inadvertently consume different type of energy because of the buildings themselves, of the environmental conditions of the place the buildings are positioned, and different types of employees and the existence or not of visitors and the size of them and how they have an effect. Additionally, the two subsequent bullets about energy consuming devices and the ability to act upon have in mind that if I am able to act upon just a laptop and just a printer, as opposed to someone who acts upon the air condition, then my effect, if I waste some energy and the other person wastes some energy, I can be 100% efficient and reduce all my wastage, and then I probably wouldn't have such an effect on overall energy consumption because my devices and the ability to act upon which is not so significant and not so energy consuming. And last but not least, we have some energy monitoring in some and we don't have in others, which could mean that we have previous behavior in terms of energy consuming, in terms of energy consumption, and we have a baseline upon which we can act, and in others we do not have, so we have to create it and we have to put it later on in the game. And last but not least, some have established automations. Picture the washing closet where lights turn off and turn on if and only if someone is within the premises. So that would mean that this cannot be better in some sort of way. So it's out of our context. And then we proceeded with interviews. We sampled carefully from different roles within each pilot, administrative, accounting, IT, etc. And we started asking about whether they play and how they play and what form of play would they have and what are the intricacies in each specific pilot. So one intricacy that is worth mentioning is the role of the participants and later players is that different departments require, based on their job description, to utilize different energy consuming devices in a different manner. So this would have to be normalized. From the second pilot, I can tell you that it's different to have a game set in an open space area where everyone consumes the same lighting, shares the same printers, etc., opposed to having a game which is located within different boundaries and people have specific machines they can use, for example. And last but not least, we have some rules that we cannot change. So we cannot turn off lights, for example, in an exhibition, or change the temperature in a room that facilitates paintings, for example, just to save energy for our purposes. We proceeded from the high-level gamification requirements to even low-level to do a global pilot survey, and I will focus with bullets 6 and 7 actually. However, we asked even more things in order to be able to show and first to understand and to show different types of game elements to different user groups. So focusing on 6 and 7 pillars of the user study, first of all, we identified that in our case, players preferred collaboration, so they didn't want to have a game or a gamified structure where each one plays for him or herself. They wanted to be in teams. Additionally, they were interested in having mission or challenge-based setup. So to help them, to motivate them through small steps of missions that they can have. For example, let's all turn off the lights. So for that part, different teams in collaboration would compete against each other. Additionally, they required to have a representation of their role within the organization into the team structure. And then, of course, they opted for rewards. In-game elements in particular, an interesting part was that they wanted to be exposed to the progression of the team and the dynamics of the team, and to be able to receive points for doing appropriate actions. They did like the competition in the term, let's say, in the visual representation of a leaderboard. However, there we see different changes, so we will have to take under consideration the different pilots, that they are significantly different, as you can see here. And of course, we have also the levels and the roles that I mentioned previously. So, as I told you in the first slides, we have the overall theme of having a main character, let's say a coach, an overall theme that helps participants progress within the whole gamified structure. So, out of research we derived to three different main evolving personas. These personas evolve over time based on team dynamics. I give you the first initial abstract illustrations where you have the main theme of the app to revolve around a tree or a set of trees that grow over time, and trees represent team behavior and energy consumption, and you can see the bird there that brings successful missions and rewards. Or we could have an iceberg where it grows over time with energy efficient actions, or we would have a coach-like approach where you are being motivated by a higher authority of a coach to help you progress yourself. So we put these different three proposals under a user study, both within the context and outside the context of the pilots, and the result was that the first version was heavily preferred. And now let's sum up. In ChArGED, gamification will account for a main persona that will evolve and assist all participants in all pilots in the form of a tree, which I will show you a bit later on, and it will guide them in order to be energy efficient and do not waste energy. It will be challenge-based and team-based, so teams will collaborate in order to complete challenges. All actions and subsequent rewards upon successful completion will be based on actual and with the ability to validate interaction with energy wasting devices, energy consuming devices. As I told you, different functions, different roles, different devices have different energy consumption, let's say, profiles. So people inadvertently, and employees act upon different devices and have different authorities and have different roles. So all of them, in order to be a fair distribution of actions, challenges and rewards, will have to be normalized based on all these important intricacies. And then we will have, of course, points to account for feedback, for correct behavior, etc. We will award, we will intrinsically award people with visual representation of their achievements, of their team's achievements, etc. We will be enabling team-based comparison, and we will take it one step at a time with the form of levels. And last but not least, in our case, teams have a major role. To do that, we are at the second stage now, where we have this that I show you, our initial design. As I told you previously, the tree concept one, trees can be teams, trees can grow. We can have one tree or multiple trees. Trees can have branches, and branches can be different locations in the leaderboard, or they can be different energy consuming devices. And birds can come, and other living creatures can come and signify that you as a team did well. These are the initial designs within the app, as they will be used by the pilot users and designed by Peak Labs, a partner in our organization. This will look like, this will feel like it. Thank you very much. I'm Stavros Lounis from Eltron, and I'm open to your questions in the session that follows. Thank you very much.
Hi, thanks Stavros for your presentations. I will remind everyone that if you want to ask your question, please share them in the chats, so that we will be able to have a short Q&A session at the end.